Meet Jeanette McCurdy. She's an author, a writer, and a big feeler. So much so that she's making a podcast all about her feelings. Jeanette's memoir, I'm Glad My Mom Died, welcomed the world into the story of Jeanette and all of the intense life experiences that molded her into the person she is today. But how does she manage all of the messy, hard feelings she's feeling right now? In each episode of Hard Feelings, her new podcast with Lemonada Media, she'll tell you all about it. Jealousy, shame, social anxiety, she wants to laugh about it, cry about it, and work through it with you by her side. Why? These hard feelings are a big part of the human condition. They unite us all, but only once we're willing to face them. Hard Feelings is out now, wherever you get your podcasts. Can't get enough of your favorite Lemonada Media podcasts? By subscribing to Lemonada Premium today, you'll gain access to fun and inspiring bonus content from all of our podcasts across the Lemonada Media network. As a subscriber, you can listen to never-before-heard interview excerpts, behind-the-scenes segments, and continue to uncover new ways to make life suck less through all of our exclusive subscriber audio. Check out a free trial of Lemonada Premium today in the Apple Podcast app by clicking on our podcast logo and then the subscribe button.
Lemonada.
Hello, it's Elyse. I'm out for a while on maternity leave, but we're back this week with a rerun of one of my favorite episodes of Funny 'Cause It's True. Enjoy! Okay, actually, can you just pretend that you're listening to a fully complete theme song here? I got really in my head, and I tried to make it perfect, and I couldn't. So this is going to be the theme song right here. Hello, this is Funny 'Cause It's True, and I'm Elyse Myers. You know what I'm realizing? Every episode of this podcast is kind of like a stepping stone on some path. I don't really know where it's going, but it feels like with every guest that comes on this show and shares so much of themselves and their process, I get to learn more about myself and what I want and I don't want. This week, I talked to Aparna Nancherla. You probably know her from the Netflix special Stand-Ups, or maybe from her comedy album Just Putting It Out There. Lesser known facts, she was a staff writer on Late Night with Seth Meyers. In this conversation with Aparna, we talk about distinguishing our role in comedy from our role in advocating for mental health. We also talk about feeling like you can't do something, and then immediately after feeling like you can do literally anything, and then how to take care of yourself when you actually need a break. So 2 things that are funny because they're true. Number 1, I cried at Aparna for no reason, which you'll hear. And number 2, it's possible that we will open up a coffee shop where it's a requirement to space out the tables far enough so that I cannot read everything that you are Googling. That will also make more sense later. Okay, let's get into it. Oh my gosh, Aparna, hi.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I was going to say, I was just looking at your Twitter and I don't want to get it wrong. So your handle is Apar Napkin.
Yes.
And your bio was, I'm a scrunched up napkin with recyclable dreams. Yeah. And I want to understand it. Can you please walk me through what that means?
I wish I could give you like a really thought out, meditated exploration of that. But I joined Twitter very early on. I don't know when it actually launched as a platform, but I think I joined like 2008 or pretty early.
Wow.
And, people are like, just have fun with it. And it was that thing before it was for networking. So I didn't use like my real name. I feel like now it's just people's professional handles. And then I was like, okay, I'm a napkin. What do I want to say about myself if I'm talking from a napkin's point of view? I really didn't think it out. I was just like, this is going to be it. And then I just never changed it.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Okay, shifting topics a little bit. So really quick, I know that you are writing a book.
Yes.
And you are writing it about imposter syndrome, right?
Yes.
What made you want to start that and why?
Yeah, so, I had toyed with the idea of writing a book before, but I really didn't know, other than maybe that it would be personal essays, what they would be about. But imposter syndrome felt like just something that's shown up in pretty much every aspect of my life. So it felt like something that would be maybe a way to make the book cohesive. But I I think when I imagined writing it, I was like, I'm going to write about imposter syndrome, and then I'm going to face it, and then I'm going to fix it, and then I'll have this book, and I won't be an imposter anymore.
You'll be like the imposter syndrome person. You're healed, you've got it. What was it like writing it?
I would say my imposter syndrome and I have reached a different stage in our relationship,
okay,
but we're still going strong.
I love that for you. Aparna's just out here testing what all of us would hope to happen when writing a book about imposter syndrome, is that you start writing it and then at the last page, you're like, you know what? I think I've healed from this. My fears are confirmed. It doesn't work that way. I'm both very encouraged that I am in good company with Aparna and also deeply saddened that it doesn't happen the way I would hope. I have ventured into the realm of writing books, and every time I do, I feel very intimidated by it. And I was curious, like, what the creative process was like approaching that compared to maybe being on a set.
I also, because I've never written a book before, didn't really know what the process should look like. And I think I have kind of romanticized it of like, oh, I'll go to a cabin and I'll just write for 8 hours a day. But
go to a coffee shop.
Yeah. First of all, I never get anything done in a coffee shop. Like, no. I just stare at everyone else who seems like they're just getting it done.
The tables are always so close. I'm like, I can smell your coffee at my table. Yeah. Like, I shouldn't be able to feel the steam from your latte on my face.
Yeah.
It's like, it's too close.
I know. And suddenly everything everyone else is doing is just so interesting. Like, interesting, but also distracting in a way where I'm like, this is not even fair that I'm judging you for, like, turning a page of your book. Like, that is not even a loud thing. And I'm like, God, you're so annoying.
Oh my gosh. Well, going back to maybe your book a little bit, talking about the imposter syndrome, like, I guess, was there something in your comedy career that sparked that? Or was that something post-comedy career that you kind of started experiencing?
I think a combination of both. Like, I think I've had it since I started comedy, and even, like I said, in other parts of my life, just like relationships or even friendships sometimes, where I'm just like, I don't feel like I know how to, like, truly show up for people the way other people do. And I think definitely in comedy, like, especially when you're starting out and you're struggling, you're like, when I get this thing X, or like, when I can support myself doing this, I will, like, can relax a little bit. Yeah. But then it feels like when you get success, and everyone says this, but like, your problems change, but it also kind of makes you doubt yourself in a way that I didn't expect, where like the expectations go up and you don't feel necessarily like you even have license to complain about them because you feel lucky to be there. Yeah.
Do you have an example of when you, like, vividly remember that happening to you?
I mean, even just like career opportunities, like when I, like got a chance to tape a half-hour Netflix special, like I remember when I got the offer, I was really like, I don't even know if I have enough material. And then, my reps were kind of like, well, it doesn't really seem like something you should turn down. And I think I actually did turn it down the first time because I really just didn't feel ready. And I was kind of like, am I closing a door that I'm not going to get a chance at again? But I really I really think it's more important for me to feel like I have the right thing to show rather than just showing it because I didn't want to, like, turn it down.
Was this the stand-ups, the one on Netflix,
Yeah.
That one?
Yeah.
That was my introduction to you and your comedy. And I was like, I felt more than anybody in that special, because it's, for anybody listening, it's like multiple comedians, like, back to back, right?
Yeah. I think it's 6 maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. And your special specifically, I was like, man, our personalities and our senses of humor are so similar that I found myself watching your special like multiple times because like it felt so easy. Just the way you deliver your jokes is so natural. It's like just breathing, and it doesn't sound like a joke. It just sounds like you're talking and you're funny. And like that was what drew me to your comedy. And I'm curious if you have always felt that way, like, or is this something that you wanted your whole life?
I think it's not something I knew I wanted early on, because I don't even think I knew I was funny until probably like just late, like maybe high school. I think I knew I liked to be silly and like laugh and make people laugh, but just in a sort of like people I knew well and like friends
Yeah.
and family, and still like never really being comfortable being the center of attention. But I didn't grow up watching SNL or anything. So I like didn't feel well versed in like the comedic form or like the history of comedy or like how you even get into doing stand-up. Like I didn't think that was something anyone could try.
I did read though that your first stand-up show was at a truck stop open mic. How did you get comfortable going on stage for the first time?
Like the only other thing I can explain, I don't want to not give myself any credit, but I had like shortly before gone on antidepressants for the first time. And I do feel like there's a honeymoon period when you first go on antidepressants where you're just like, I didn't know I could experience life at this level of feeling. Because I had been like struggling with depression up until that point, like pretty seriously at that point in my life. And I think it was that sort of like, oh my gosh, like maybe this is the beginning of the rest of my life. So like, I'll try anything. Like, I think my comedy has always been like kind of trying to connect with other people because I feel like I have so much trouble doing that sometimes in just day-to-day life. Like it felt like a language between me and other people that I can't access in other ways that other people seem to.
Totally. I mean, that's how I feel about comedy as well, as it is like a point of connection.
Yeah.
What did you go to school for?
I went to undergrad for psychology, psych major.
Oh, wow. Did you want to go into that psych major because of your struggle with mental health and you wanted to kind of connect the two?
Not really. Like I just went with psychology because I think it was the only field I found where that I was like consistently interested in what I was learning. Like I didn't really feel connected to other subjects in the same way, but I just find human behavior so fascinating and like why we do the things we do that it really was that. It was like the only subject that kind of kept my interest because it's something you can kind of directly tie to your own life where it's not like history and you're like, what does this have to do with me? Like,
what does this mean for me?
Yeah.
I feel like that lends itself very well to comedy.
Yeah.
How have you found that to be useful in your comedy career, I guess?
So, you know, stand-up can be so observational, and I feel like I'm, as a quieter person, constantly just like observing how other people behave in situations. And I think in a way it was kind of adaptive at first to be like, what are they doing? What, like, should I be doing that? And yeah, psychology kind of gives you more of the like why behind why people behave certain ways in certain situations. So it felt like in a way it was like getting cheat codes.
Yeah. A cheat code that cost you a lot of time and money and hard work, I guess.
A very time consuming and money draining cheat code.
Other would call that just like experience, but you know, it's fine. You know, you just said that comedy is a lot of like perceiving what's going on around you and like watching people. Like, is that kind of how you create sets? Is that your inspiration for writing jokes, is just sitting and watching?
Yeah. I mean, I think my comedy comes from a very specific place of like how I'm perceiving the world around me. And a lot of that is, I think I'm just fascinated with the day-to-day behavior of all of us because it feels like it's easier to zoom in on the like highs and the lows, but then kind of the in-between is what fascinates me the most.
It's very interesting that you said that because I totally connect with that as well.
Yeah, and even with like the mental health stuff of like anxiety and depression, which I've dealt with like for forever pretty much, like I think it feels like even as a culture, as much progress as we've made towards talking about these things, it does feel like it focuses on like the crisis moments or the lowest lows.
Totally.
And I feel like more of it is just managing it on a day-to-day basis and like, how am I just going to get through this next phone call or whatever it is? Yep. And so I'm like, I want more people to talk about like how they just got from morning to night.
Yeah. I know that you've been vocal about it, like mental health and stuff in your comedy and the interviews and all of that. And only because I'm speaking from experience here where like you mentioned it a few times and it kind of can become your entire like platform or things, how people, they see you as this advocate now for mental health. And while I feel very fortunate that I can speak about it and make it normal, how do you balance that of like, I still want to be funny. And it's like, I can't really be funny if like all you want to hear about is my depression. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
What is that balance for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. Cause I feel like when I first started talking about that in my act, I did kind of, people were like, wow, she's talking about mental health and she's trying to be funny about it. And I was like, well, I'm not the first person to do this. Like I have looked up to Maria Bamford for however long, and I know plenty of other comedians who have talked about it in their act. And I don't know if it's because I'm a woman of color that it was suddenly like a new angle or something, but it is funny how people they want to be like, okay, so you're this kind of comedian, like this is your thing. Because even when I was like talking about it, it still was just like, an eighth of my act. Like it wasn't all I talked about by any means.
Right.
So it's funny that people kind of latch onto that one thing, and you have to kind of be like, well, actually, that's just like one other detail about how my brain works.
About my life.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I always, whenever anyone asks me about it, I always try and say like, I don't want to become the face of this.
Yeah.
Because, number one, like I'm trying to just incorporate it so naturally into what I do that it feels normal. I want it to be, and I say this a lot, is like, I want it to feel as normal as talking about like the weather.
Right.
I can imagine that can be hard in stand-up specifically.
Yeah. And it feels like when I first started talking about it, like sometimes the audience would immediately be on board. Sometimes they would be a little bit like, not sure how to feel, like maybe like feel sorry for me a little bit. But now it does seem like culturally it's become to some extent more normalized. So when I talk about it, everyone's like, yeah, of course, we all have anxiety. Like,
it's 2023. We all have panic attacks in our cars after lunch.
So that's like a good thing in some ways, but it's also just like so interesting to have noticed that shift.
Okay, we got to take a quick break. And when we return, Aparna tells us about getting into acting. You want to know what's music to my ears? Bread bowls. And that brings me to our beloved sponsor, Panera. Whenever I'm not sure what I'm going to do for dinner, but I know I want something nourishing that I'll really enjoy, I pick up Panera on the way home. Plus, with Panera's new Crunch Time feature, Panera will send you a reminder at whatever time you want to order your favorite preset dinner with one easy swipe. It's been an absolute game changer to make sure dinner is taken care of while I'm out running around. I'm going to start with my favorite, their mac and cheese, featuring a creamy, rich blend of cheeses. But I also like to mix it up too, and Panera makes it easy. Sometimes I'll go with their Fuji apple salad with chicken. Or I'll try one of their unbeatably delicious and hearty soups, like their creamy tomato soup. It's a classic, and I have found no soup that pairs better with their warm, fresh bread bowl. And I have done plenty of research, trust me. So order Panera tonight to get a delicious dinner in one easy swipe. Available only in iOS mobile devices. Other restrictions apply.
And for more information on clean, visit panerabread.com/clean.
I do a lot of writing for this show, and I always try to be really careful about my spelling, my grammar, and just the overall quality of my writing, but it's hard when I'm moving so quickly to check everything. That's why every single day I'm super thankful for Grammarly. They've helped me come off so much more confident in my writing, and also I just feel more confident sending emails, like all of the emails. Grammarly does more than just fix grammar and typos. With Grammarly Premium, it takes your writing to the next level. To me, Grammarly is like having my own personal writing consultant right there with me, letting me know when I'm maybe being a little indirect or less concise than I could be. It's those little checks with their software that make all the difference for me, helping me strike the perfect tone and actually getting things done. The free version of Grammarly offers instant proofreading with comprehensive spelling, grammar, and punctuation suggestions. They also offer a tone detector, but I recommend the premium version, which offers clarity-focused sentence rewrites.
You'll be amazed at what you can do with Grammarly. Go to grammarly.com/podcast to download for free today. That's GRAMMARLY.com/podcast.
So going back just a little bit, I know that you released a comedy album with Tig Notaro before your Netflix special. What was that like? Because Tig is a huge comedy inspiration for me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know. She's like an incredible comedian, but then she's also just like a lovely, wonderful person, which you're like, oh, I guess you can just be all the things.
I love that.
But I think I had gotten the chance to open for her at maybe the New York Comedy Festival or something when she was in town, and then had worked with her a few times after that, and she like reached out to me like, have you ever thought about doing an album? I'm launching this like label, and I'm just reaching out to comics I love who might want to record something. And that felt like kind of the same thing as the Netflix thing where I was like, well, I never thought about it before, but like you believe in me. So like, it feels weird to say no. Like, it's strange with imposter syndrome, how sometimes you're like, you need overt like contradiction to be like, okay, maybe you're not always right.
Yeah. I experience the same thing. And I joke about it with my husband all the time. Like, things can be so good that I avoid it. I will not open that email. I will not read that text. I won't listen to that voicemail because it's so good. It makes me physically sick. And I'm like, no. Do you experience that?
No. Oh my gosh, I relate to that so much. Like, I think I actually have a harder time with good news or like sitting in something good that happened to me or something nice someone said to me. That is so much more uncomfortable to me than like, I'm like, I wear failure like a little tailored suit.
Yeah, I am much more comfortable, with failure than good things. Because, too, I feel like, and I don't know if you experience this, but the good things that happen, I'm nervous they're not going to be as good as they seem. So I'm nervous I'm going to be let down. Or I'm nervous that, like, I will get you, this sounds so depressing, but I will get so used to that good feeling and it's going to go away. And then I'm going to go back to like sad. And then I'm like, well, I wish I would have never experienced that in the first place because now I have to go back to sad and I don't want to do that. I'd rather just stay sad.
I know. So when you were saying that, I was just like, oh, great fears.
Okay, wait. So I will not lie. When Aparna just kept saying, oh, great fears, I didn't really understand what she was saying and that she was like in support of what I was saying. And so it took like a couple minutes down in the conversation for me to fully understand that she was like, yeah, totally, like retweet, Elyse, like definitely, yes, I agree with you. And I wish I could have like rewinded back in our conversation to respond to that better and been like, yes, thank you. But instead I just kind of stayed quiet because I was like, I don't know what you're saying.
Really, you're saying the correct things to worry about. No, I feel the same way. Like, I'm either constantly waiting for a shoe to drop. Like, I was telling someone when I get good news, I think my window of like actually appreciating it is maybe like 2 minutes before
a couple seconds,
just turns into worry. Because even for like acting, like I think before I acted at all, I was just like, yeah, anything. Like I'll do whatever job. And now it's like I'll get a job and then I'll be so excited, but then I'll get stressed out about like a wardrobe fitting.
I have literally said no to jobs because they required a wardrobe fitting.
And just like how to talk to the wardrobe person, like while we're changing clothes, like, do I talk to them in between? Do I not? I don't know.
I love that.
Yeah.
You said acting. Are you, I know that you took a break from tours, right? And you went more into like acting and voice acting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Was that a conscious like pivot that you made?
It was somewhat to the extent that I think I just figured out for me that touring was just like taxing for me in a way that I was like, I don't think this can be my only thing. Like just all the travel and being alone so much and not in your own space. Like I think I found that pretty draining, like in a non-sustainable way. So I was like, I can do this from time to time, but I can't be someone who's like on the road most of the year. So it's like, what are my other options?
Man, and so then did acting feel like it fulfilled that like creative and comedy kind of void in your life, or was it something completely different?
I think that's the thing with entertainment. It's like everything is so different. And then people are sort of like, yeah, but you can do that too, right? And I'm like, well, it is completely different muscle and like completely different.
Like how hard could it be? But also no.
Yeah. It's like a skill that people spend their whole lives working on. But yeah, sure, I can do it.
Figure it out.
Yeah, but I think I'm very lucky. And I think sometimes is the nice thing about comedy is like if you kind of hone a specific voice, then like, and people recognize that eventually. So they're not like expecting me to come and, you know, turn myself into the queen like a Kate Blanchett or something. They're like, okay, we're going to get some version of an Aparna for this character.
Do you find that that's the easiest to do is like just versions of yourself and not completely like different characters from your personality?
I think there's some, like I just did this movie that came out on Hulu called The Drop. And I think I probably played a character that's the most unlike myself that I've ever played. She's like a lesbian who's a recent mom, and she's just gotten super protective of her kid to the point that she's kind of gone somewhat right wing and like pro gun. So I think that felt like more of a leap for me, and just like to inhabit that kind of mentality of like what would make someone shift their worldview, because she like starts out very liberal before she has a kid, and then she sort of does a 180. And I think it is fascinating to play further away from myself, but then be like, how can I tie myself to this character? Yeah. Like that's the fun, I think the more fun part of acting, when you do get to play something that seems unlike you at a glance.
I guess for this specific character, like, how did you do that? What were the characteristics in her that you were like, okay, I see myself in this?
Well, I think I have always had a lot of trouble expressing my anger and like holding it in real time versus just completely internally and like pushing it inwards. So I think it almost felt like, oh my gosh, this character is like permission to like let out a lot of aggression that I normally don't. And I get paid for it. Like it felt, in a way, I was
therapeutic.
Like, take advantage of this, of like, take all the anger that you've been sitting on for years and just put in her.
Did it make you want to play characters that were unlike yourself more often, so you could experience parts of yourself that you don't get to tap into usually?
Yeah, I think so. I think I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like sometimes if you're a very socially anxious person or just someone who lives very internally, like loudly internally, you constantly feel like you're performing a little bit in different spaces. Maybe everyone feels this way, but with acting, it sort of just feels like a more overt version of that. But I think I do feel like I'm sort of performing all the time in a way.
Yeah. I relate to that more than I wish. Yeah. What's funny is I literally just had this conversation with my husband, and I was like, everybody does it. Like everybody is performing on a daily basis, right? And he's like, no. Like the most sincere and loving no, but like that's a you thing. And I hope one day it isn't, because like I have found that to really make me believe that I could pretty much do anything I wanted to in a good and bad way. Like I call it the how hard could it be gene, where because of that idea of like, there is just a part of me that I am never fully off because I feel uncomfortable, I think, with myself. And if I'm completely unmasked, just myself. Right. And so because of that, I'm like, I could act. I could write a screenplay. Like, I fully believe I could do anything. And I'm curious if there's anything in your life, especially in the creative world, is there anything that you haven't explored or want to, that you feel like, you know, I've never done it, but I could probably figure it out and it sounds interesting? Yeah.
I mean, I would still love to write like a screenplay or something. And I know that's like, not an original thing to say for someone in entertainment, but I think for me it is, and I think this is actually part of imposter syndrome, of like knowing on some level that you're like, I am capable of this, right? But then going so much to the other end, like just kind of toggling back and forth all the time between like, I don't know how to do anything, I'm like the worst, and then
the imposter syndrome is the taking you down a notch and being like, but could you? That's like the fear of not living up to something. Like the idea of me being able to write a screenplay feels great, because until I actually do it, it's like the Schrodinger's screenplay. Like it exists and doesn't exist, so I'll never know. Right. But if you try, then you feel that weight of like, well, if I fail, that sucks. And I don't want to believe that about myself. Yeah. And so it's comfortable.
Actually, I remember reading something about this where it's like, that's sort of the problem with perfectionism, is like, you have this ideal that you're like, I can make, you know, the best screenplay. But then when you actually start doing it, it's like nowhere like the ideal that you've envisioned. So you're just like, well, I'm not going to do that. This feels horrible compared to the thing I'm imagining. Yeah, I think it's that the actual doing is a lot less romantic than the idea of doing. Yeah.
50% of my doing is quitting.
Oh, yeah.
It's like half of it is deciding, you know what, this sucks, I'm the worst, and I'm never going to do this again. And then the next day, like having a good nap and snack and being like, God, well, maybe if I'm going to throw it away anyways, I might as well try it one more time because it's already going in the trash.
Totally. It is funny that on some level we are all just like big babies.
Toddlers.
Yeah. And it is just like, oh, I didn't drink enough water. And that's why I'm having an existential crisis.
Totally. Yeah. Every time I like parent my son, I'm always like, I could learn a lot from you. We're a lot more alike than I think we are. All right, time for one more break. And when we come back, we hear what it was like for Aparna to come back to comedy after taking a pause. Say goodbye to those old antacid brands and say hello to Wonderbelly Antacid. If you're like me and get heartburn from basically everything, you're going to love Wonderbelly. I know that for me, heartburn and indigestion can really affect how I'm feeling and even impact what I choose to eat, which is a huge bummer. I want hot sauce, you guys. I need hot sauce. Wonderbelly's chewable antacids instantly get rid of heartburn, acid indigestion, and a sour belly using the same active ingredients as many of the leading brands. Only Wonderbelly doesn't have talc, artificial dyes, artificial sweeteners, titanium dioxide, or GMOs. And they come in these super cute and colorful aluminum bottles. Wonderbelly antacids come in 4 delicious flavors: strawberry milkshake, lemon sorbet, watermelon mint, and fruity cereal. The strawberry milkshake one is my personal favorite. It's an antacid tablet that actually tastes like strawberries blended into vanilla ice cream topped with whipped cream. And it's dairy-free. And as if the flavors weren't enough, listen to Wonderbelly's tagline for this ad: "Let's kick acid." Obsessed. You can get Wonderbelly Antacid at Target or shop on Amazon with code 20ElyseM to get 20% off. That's 20 ELYSEM, all one word, for 20% off on Amazon. I feel like I spend so much money on food, and it's hard to find good, nourishing food that doesn't also cost like $1 million. That's why this fall I'm going with EveryPlate. They help you get more bang for your bite as America's best value meal kit. EveryPlate is 25% cheaper than grocery shopping with no hidden fees, so you can count on great value week after week. Plus, you only pay for what you need with pre-portioned ingredients. I just made the crispy buffalo ranch chicken with honey roasted carrots and mashed potatoes, and guys, you know how I feel about spicy food. This recipe blew my mind. I cannot believe I made it in my own kitchen. Plus, the step-by-step instructions make it really easy to make with someone else, or maybe even the whole family. EveryPlate provides plenty of delicious variety, so you'll never get stuck in a cooking rut. With 26 tasty and affordable recipes that change every week, it's easy to find something flavorful and satisfying for every meal of the day. Plus, add even more delicious options to your order with up to 22 convenient sides, lunches, snacks, desserts, and more. It's all delicious and definitely worth checking out.
Get started with EveryPlate for just $1.49 per meal plus $1 steaks by going to everyplate.com/podcast and entering code Elyse149. That's everyplate.com/podcast and entering code Elyse149.
I think too, as creative people, the idea of like output is so important, right? Just like any job, like you're only as good as kind of what you can output.
Yes.
But the hard part about that is creativity relies so much on like rest and being inspired and having the space to really work it out by yourself before anyone has any eyeballs and hands on it.
Yeah.
I'm curious if with acting or maybe back in your touring and doing stand-up, like if you ever felt like there was a point where you were like, this is a grind and I just can't do it, like, or I feel burnt out, like how did you manage that? And if you did experience that, like how did you kind of recover from that feeling?
Yeah. I mean, when I started writing the book, I think it actually sunk me pretty low mentally because I think I was kind of confronting a lot of just negative beliefs that really felt so real and like what I had built my entire identity around. And so I was just like struggling a lot with writing the book, and then doing stand up at the same time felt almost like excruciating because it was like already feeling so bad about myself and then kind of putting myself in front of strangers for like further evaluation at the same time.
Oh God, I feel this so deeply. The 1% of assholes that are just like, are dedicated to disliking you and misunderstanding you really ruin it for you. And I hate that because there's like 99% of people that love you and just support the shit out of you. And the 1% is like, no, I'm going to be louder than all of them. Oh God.
Bro, I took a very long break from stand-up, like pretty much the entire time I wrote the book. And it happened to fall during the pandemic. So like weirdly was okay because a lot of performing was not happening as much. But yeah, I took almost like, I think a 2.5 year break. And I've only recently in the past few months gotten back into stand-up, and I really didn't put pressure on myself. I wasn't like, okay, and now it's time to get back out there.
Yeah.
Like I was like, try it, see how it makes you feel. If you still really can't handle it, like you don't have to do it. And I think that really helped. Like if I feel like in coming back to performing after such a long break, which felt like illegal at the time, I was like, if you stop for a couple months, like people forget about you. And so I really was just like, well, this is probably it for me. Like I think it just coming back after so long made it so new again, and kind of like I could reset the terms. And honestly is probably the best thing I've done career-wise, is just stepping away from it, which I think is not anything I would have allowed for before taking a break.
I think that is really powerful for me to hear, because I think that like there is so much fear in, I don't know why it's making me emotional.
No,
I think there's like there's so much fear in like becoming irrelevant. And so I think that if you feel like you're tired and you want to just, you feel like you have to keep pushing through it. Like if I do have just a nap and a snack, like I can do it, but like you can't be funny, and it can't fill your soul back up if you're exhausted. So like, I think that taking that break for you to be able to step back and be like, there's no amount of like rest that's going to fix this. I need to step away and to reevaluate, try something new. And if I want to come back, like not enough people do that. They push through it. And that's really what makes you never come back, because it will burn you out so fast. And so I'm really proud of you for stepping away and making it this new thing, because now you get to come back and it is fresh, and people don't forget who you are, because that's not the way it works. And I think a lot of that fear comes from within us, and we make up a lot of things in our head, you know?
Totally. And I think it's also just you relearning like what your life is without this thing that has like come to define who you are. And I think for a lot of stand-ups, they are like, that is who I am, even ahead of being a person. Like it's getting on stage, getting in front of people, making them laugh. And I was like, I need to realize I am a full person without this thing, like whether or not I do this thing. And I think that's really hard. Like it was really hard for me. And I understand why people like can't face that sometimes.
This is just like a verbal underlining of everything that Aparna just said. Great fears. Great fears. So what is it like now coming back after your break and reapproaching this stand-up career? And like, what is this like this time compared to last?
I mean, I think the expectations are less. And again, I feel lucky in that I have like career avenues that I can work on that aren't stand-up. And if I was committed to stand-up, it might be a different story if that was my sole source of income. But I do feel like I can kind of do it on my own terms now, where I can do it, but then I'm not like, if I'm not getting on stage X times a week, I'm like not growing fast enough, or I'm not building enough material. Like I've done a series of workout shows recently just to kind of build up more material, and everyone's like, oh, are you taping a special? Or are you? I'm like, no, I just wanted to see if I could do it.
I imagined literally working out when you said that, and I was like, what? And then it took me a second. Okay.
I know. Someone else was like, so you like exercise in front of people? I'm like,
you're like, it's a dual comedy special. You know, I'm teaching. It's like a jazzercise plus like comedy.
Break the form.
I love that. I love that you have the padding in your life professionally to not rely on this as your main thing, so you can enjoy it again. I think that everybody has to fall in love, out of love, and then back in love with the creative process and their creative outlet, you know, and comedy and all of that.
Yeah. And I think with art especially, or like anything creative, like once there's like money tied to it, your relationship to it inevitably changes. So it's just like important to kind of make sure you're like reevaluating, you know, what's there, why you're there, why you're like creating what you are. And I think I really just needed to take stock of that.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see all the stuff.
Oh.
The book and all of it. Like, you're doing so much, and I'm so happy for you. It's awesome.
Oh, likewise. It's so nice to know there's like-minded people out there.
We're doing it. Thank you so much for listening to my conversation with Aparna Nancherla. If you like the show, give a review and a rating, maybe. It just helps people find us. Okay, see you next week. Bye. There's always more Funny 'Cause It's True with Lemonada Premium. You'll get access to all of Lemonada's premium content, including My 5 Questions with Brian Baumgartner, which aired last Friday. Subscribe now in Apple Podcasts. Funny 'Cause It's True is a Lemonada Media and Powder Keg production. The show is produced by Claire Jones, Zoe Dennis, and Linnea Tony. Our associate producer is Tiffany Bowie. Rachel Neal is our Senior Director of New Content, and our VP of Weekly Production is Steve Nelson. Executive producers are Stephanie Whittles-Wax, Jessica Cordova-Kramer, Paul Feig, Laura Fisher, Kesla Childers, and me, Elyse Myers. This show is mixed by Johnny Vince Evans, additional help from Noah Smith and Ivan Krayev. Our theme song music was written by me and scored by Xander Singh. Follow Funny 'Cause It's True wherever you get your podcasts, or listen ad-free on Amazon Music with your Prime membership.
Hey listeners, I'm here today to tell you about Lemonada Media's newest limited podcast series called Declined. This 10-part series takes you through the journey of two exceptional women from incarceration to freedom, ultimately leading to the creation of the Returning Artists Guild, an organization that uplifts the artwork of currently and formerly incarcerated artists across the country. Call Declined premieres November 27th wherever you get your podcasts.
What's up, everyone? I'm Delaney Fisher, comedian and serial entrepreneur.
And I'm Kelsey Cook, comedian and, I swear this is real, a world champion foosball player.
On our podcast, Self-Helpless, we dig into everything from heartbreak to career burnout to the wild stories from our 20s and the many anxieties we've experienced along the way.
We're often joined by guests who range from celebrities to renowned health experts.
And together, we'll unpack big topics like deciding whether or not we want kids, building your dream career, strengthening self-trust, and much, much more.
So join us every Monday for an unfiltered, entertaining, and honest conversation with friends where you don't even have to leave your house. If you're not wearing pants, we will never know.
That's right. So listen to Self-Helpless wherever you get your podcasts. Yes. 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 Yes.